music.
Party's not a party's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of fair Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Forever, the show that is here to put you in your place. I am one of your hosts, the Big Kahuna, John Parker.
And I am hurtling towards certain doom in the icy cold waters underneath Emperor Palpatine's window. The co-host, Niall McGowan.
That window is a work of art. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I've knocked out my back wall. I think I'm currently trying to get that window installed for myself.
Good luck.
That's like I'm looking at it for like 3 straight minutes. I'm like, oh man, it really works. I think it would really go with the feng shui of the whole area here.
Well, I will introduce our very, very, very ultra special guest. We have someone you may recognize. You may know the name. You may know the voice if you are an avid listener. We have once again actress Lauren Ashley Carter.
Alrighty then.
That's the thing though, because I remember seeing rewatch recently the Andy Kaufman Jim Carrey documentary.
Oh yeah,
it's on Netflix. Really excellent stuff. But the thing is, like, its major issue is that they keep showing you like all this old footage of Andy Kaufman, and you're like, oh yeah, I really liked him. He was a great comedian. And then they show you early days Jim Carrey stuff, and it's like, how did this guy get popular? Like he's. And one of them was like, apparently one of his first bits was to come up on stage and go like, hello everyone, how are you? Alrighty then. And apparently that killed the audience. And it's like, that's not funny at all. What the hell?
I mean, it's vaguely amusing in the context of Ace Ventura. But not just it getting up on stage to do stand-up.
But were you ever deep into Jim Carrey, Lauren? Were you ever like torturing your parents when you were a kid, doing all the quotes or anything?
You know, we were all fans, and that's why we came. My dad and I saw this movie in the theater, and we came because, well, I was a huge fan of the first two, and we were big Jim Carrey fans, and so we thought that it would be good. And I remember the whole time I was watching with my dad, he was just groaning and saying, oh my God, this is so terrible. And he wanted to leave, but I was like, no, we have to finish the movie. So and it was really, I think my dad's perception of the film when I saw it with him was burned into me as my own, because I was watching it last night and there are some enjoyable moments. And I think for the Riddler too, like I always thought the Riddler was kind of like a Joker. And I didn't really think there was much to him, like at least in the Adam West TV version.
Oh God, yeah.
I just thought it really sucked. And so for me, like Jim Carrey kind of made it towards the end. He is a little badass. Like he's definitely, comes into this kind of like asshole, fire starter, havoc wreaking character
with a cool hairdo.
Oh my God! Can we talk about these costumes? He's like wearing spray painted Oakleys.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
I'm just making sure to cross off next week's guest, Mr. Ashley Carter. Apparently not a fan of the film. So.
Oh my God, I hated it so much.
I thought a fan of Jim Carrey might have been all for it.
Yeah, I think that it was, maybe he was saying, oh, it's the same character, in a different suit.
It is. He's not wrong.
And I will say that then too, when the Cable Guy came out, my dad was just done with him.
Yeah.
He loved the Cable Guy. And even now, if it's on TV or something, and my dad's like, but why are we watching this? He does laugh because of I think the best part about it are, well, obviously we're not reviewing the Cable Guy here, but just real quick, all of the references throughout are so good.
Yeah.
And then when it ties it up at the end, it's hysterical.
Well, I think you've just given us, when we finish this season, a hiatus episode. I want to talk about the Cable Guy, because I'm a huge fan of the Cable Guy, and everyone makes fun of me.
Hey, I meet lots of Cable Guy fans. I think I have more fans than not.
I mean, it's one of those ones, though. It does have, like, because everybody still, if you mention the Cable Guy, then they'll still do the Cable Guy. Like, it's stuck in people's heads. Like, just
and the
Oh, I do that all the time.
yes. And then the one where he's walking away from the door. See you later.
See, I've just realised I haven't introduced the episode. This is minute 25. And the minute starts with Stickley about to take a tumble. And it ends with Batman leaping across a courtroom. For some reason.
We'll say, like, straight off here, throughout this season, I've mentioned several times that there are scenes that were cut for the UK video release. They trimmed it down by like a minute 30 seconds or something like
because
that.
Because
we're
like, children, we're babies.
Basically, yeah, to make this a PG video release, you're going to have to trim out some stuff. This was the most egregious cut. Like the first 15 seconds of this were completely missing from the original VHS.
Wait, some of the most important bits of the movie?
Yeah, and I think it was called on Christmas Day by my brother, because like I saw this in the cinema, but I was like, 8 or whatever. So I didn't. By the time Christmas rolled around, I didn't remember most of the movie. But my brother did, because he was like 18 or 19 at that point. And I remember him after watching, he was going like, they cut out a whole big segment where he's supposed to get caught in the window, and then he goes and yanks the thing off his head, and I was like, what? And so for years, I carried that. I think there's a missing bit from my Batman Forever video. Why would they cut that? And it's only nowadays that I realize, like, no, apparently it was just the entirety of the UK was screwed over by that edit.
But this is a really important section of the movie for the Riddler character.
Well, that's the thing, though. It was Stickley's death was still in there. Like he'd shove him down. He goes, like, oh, I don't think so, and pushes him towards the window, and then it would cut to him just going.
You can assume that he dies, right? But it doesn't have your full on Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Although weirdly, it did include him going, like he was shocked, and then running, and it's like, when you're a kid, it was a bit confusing. It's like, why is he's just trying to kill him, and now he's standing at the window going, "Surf's up, Big Kahuna." It's like, what is going on here?
With Stickley sort of precariously bouncing out the window and that, and then you see Nigma shocked, as you say. At first, because I hadn't seen this movie for a while, that confused me. I was like, oh, like, is he genuinely, like, scared at this point? Does he think he's gone too far? And then he runs over, and really, really what he cares about when you look into it is he just wants the device. That's what he's worried about. That can't tumble out the window.
There were, though, I definitely also felt like some of the deliveries were a bit Jack Nicholson Joker.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, like in the beginning of that scene, or when he's in the laboratory, like there are just some like he made like a kind of noise to the thing, and totally and some of the playfulness. I think that was where I'm like, what defines the Riddler in his hijinks as opposed to the Joker in his, and what's the difference in the tone?
Yeah.
And that was something that I don't know, which I think is defined really well later when he's, creating havoc, and he's definitely got intention. But in this beginning part, it's a bit silly.
But I will say though, I'm surprised because this is like the lines are all the way from the original script up to on the screen.
Yeah,
and I still think that this seems like a bit weak sauce to me, because like, so Stickley said to him previous minute, like, Nigma, you are fired. You hear me? Fired.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say. Yeah,
but it's just the fact, like, I don't think so. That to me is a good parting shot. And then he comes up and he's just like, Fred, babe, you are fired, or should I say terminated? But it's a bit like, should it not be more delivered in like it is you who is fired? It seems as if it was two different.
I think you will find it is you.
But this seems a bit like he's just zinging back. It's not even a zinger. It's just like, you said this thing to me about like 15 seconds ago, and now that I've accidentally let you survive, I'm going to throw your own line back at you.
Yeah, and he pulls the device off his head and lets him fall to his doom. So shouldn't he be doing a gag about having to let you go? Or
Yeah.
does Arnold Schwarzenegger have a copyright on that?
Well, it says terminated. I don't think he cares what rights Arnie has.
He should say, like, Fred, I'm going to have to let you go.
Except, or we're going to have to drop you.
Yeah.
There's been a dip in your performance. You know.
Anything like that.
Or you're going
Don't
to
go
like,
chasing waterfalls. That
Oh, yeah. Was that song out by this point? It probably was.
was.
I
Let's
think it
see.
probably was.
Gonna say, Lauren, great minds think alike, because the outro for the previous minute, it was next time, don't go chasing waterfalls. So. But I think even he's gonna do like a surfing thing. Could he be like, well, Fred, here's a new board meeting, a new kind of board meeting. Surf's up, Big Kahuna.
Year, it was 95. That's the same year, right?
Perfect then. That would have been amazing.
That could have been what? Maybe the media was oversaturated with waterfalls, and they're just like, this dial it back a little.
that would have just put the axe in the film for sure.
Would have killed it dead. Yeah, it would have failed at the box office.
Well, I remember seeing that fucking Kiss from a Rose video every day, every hour it played. The only person that didn't fit for me really was Val Kilmer. I think everyone else really leaned into the silliness and they just went as far as they could. Tommy Lee's a hero. Nicole in the little dance scene with the Riddler, she's just going for it, all of her. But Val, just every day I was like, you're getting more and more hungover every time I see your little
Because he seems enthusiastic in interviews. He's probably just plastered at that point. And then he's just like walking back like, oh man, I was having an off day during this entire shoot, pretty much.
He does. He looks like he just woke up from a nap every time that I see him without his mask on.
So are you of the same sort of thing as me, where I think he's a good Batman and not a great Bruce?
Yes, exactly.
Because his Bruce is just a bit of a non-entity.
Yeah.
But I really like his Batman. It's grown on me so much doing this show.
He's funny. I mean, when he's in the mask, and he makes really good little, Batman moves, little gesticulations.
And he's got the pout. That's all that matters for Batman.
But anyway, I did, as is the wont of the show, there's a lot of little everything's connected in the following lines of Nigma shouting out after Stickley, like, "Oh, surf's up, Big Kahuna," because say the phrase "surf's up" to me automatically it makes me think of like, oh, that's a Beach Boys song and a Beach Boys album, and of course Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys was played by Paul Dano in Love and Mercy. And of course, Paul Dano is now playing the Riddler in Matt Reeves' The Batman. So like, oh, there you go. That's
Everything's connected.
Yeah. And
that blew my mind, right? Because I assumed, being a stupid English person, that Kahuna, I just thought Tarantino made it up for that Big Kahuna bird. And then I looked into it as well, so we might have a similar thing, but you roll with it, baby.
It's a Hawaiian thing, right?
Yeah. It's well, what I got here is from the definition that I briefly Googled online. It says, Big Kahuna is an idiom that is derived from the native Hawaiian language. The word kahuna has gone through many variations in the translation until it finally joined the English language in the middle of the 20th century in the idiom the Big Kahuna, a term many Hawaiians find offensive. Because basically cultural appropriation is what they find. The first known translation of the Hawaiian word kahuna appeared in 1865's Hawaiian English Dictionary as a derivation of the word kahu, which means to cook in an earthen oven. At this time, kahuna was applied to anyone who mastered an art or profession. And then kahuna lapupa was a doctor. When the word kahuna was used alone, it refers to a priest or a shaman. But basically, when tourists began to visit, they were exposed to the word, or to the term kahuna nu he nalu, which means master surfer. And this is where it all, as is our want, everything's connected, because in 1959, the term was popularized by the movie Gidget, which is like a kind of surf comedy thing. And of course, Gidget stars Yvonne Craig, who was the original Batgirl. So there you go. It also brought to mind as well because the main star of Gidget is Sandra Dee. And it makes me think of Grease and Stockard Channing. And then I recently watched a movie called Meet the Applegates that had Stockard Channing and Ed Begley Jr. as a man and wife in it. And I was like, oh my God, everything's just blending in here.
I'm going to ruin things for you, right? Every time someone says Stockard Channing, it takes me a second to realize they're not talking about Channing Tatum.
Oh, no. Shame on you.
How many people have the name Channing? Come on.
I want to know, though, how the hell? I don't even know what. I'm looking at Meet the Applegates right now. What the is this movie and how, why?
It's about meeting the Applegates.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, it's
race is about to be destroyed by people who wouldn't hurt a fly.
It's basically what the pitch is that there's deforestation. People having there's something, people are tearing down the rainforest and the jungle and stuff, and basically these giant ants disguise themselves as human beings. So it's Ed Begley Jr., Stockard Channing are the parents, and then there's two kids, like teenage kids. Then they go and infiltrate suburban America so they can infiltrate a nuclear power plant and blow it up to destroy the human race. And it's directed by the guy who made Heathers, like Michael Lehman. And it's fucking bonkers. Like, it's got an astoundingly low rating on like Rotten Tomatoes, but I loved it. I thought this was just incredible. It's got like really crazy bits.
Junior was in so many bizarre movies. She-Devil.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's like Roseanne's husband in She-Devil. But this thing has a bit where like others, because the daughter gets pregnant at one point, because basically the kids become infiltrated into like 90s society. So they go from being like, shucks, 1950s children, into like a grunge kid. And basically the daughter gets pregnant, and like the scene where she's having sex is horrifying. Because the guy looks down at her, and then her bug eyes are coming out through her human eyes, and it's just done like these big white balloons coming out of her head. And there's just freaky stuff like that happening. It's available on YouTube, the whole film. So I highly recommend people go and watch Meet the Applegates if you have the chance. It is horrifying. There's a bit where the dog turns into this giant fly thing, and it's like, when I was watching it, my mouth was genuinely on the floor of like, oh my God. Like,
how did they do all the effects?
It's all practical effects, because I guess it was
obviously because the time. Was it like, did they speed it up? Like, what does it look like?
Oh, it's like the kind of a variation of things. Like a lot of the time, you'll just see like, the bug ears will come up the top of their head, or the antenna, and then it'll cut away and it'll come back, and then they're giant bugs or something. But the bit with the daughter's eyes is like they must have made a paper mache head and then just put inflatable eyes in underneath it and then blew them up. So it's just like
horrible.
It is horrifying to watch. But
I kind of want to see it, as twisted as that sounds.
it's really, really good. Like it's one of those things from seeing how lowly it was received.
I'm seeing a picture of the dog right now. Oh, that is.
I'm genuinely stunned it hasn't have like a cult following. I thought like, because particularly it's like, the guy who made Heathers made this. Hudson Hawk has a friggin' cult following. Why not this? But it just and it really struck me as well with the fact that it's like, it's essentially Third Rock from the Sun, in that like, they're aliens. They're insects. They're not aliens, but they're infiltrating society with that same kind of like, I don't quite understand how everything works and all this sort of business. And then like 3 or 4 years later, Third Rock from the Sun came out and was incredibly successful. And I was like, do people just prefer John Lithgow over Ed Begley Jr.? Why wasn't Ed Begley Jr. cast in Third Rock from the Sun? He seems like he could play Dick Solomon. What happened there?
I also want to see John Lithgow in Batman.
Yes.
I actually, thinking about it, he should be in a Batman movie.
He'd be a good Alfred.
Yeah. But back in the minute, Jim Carrey, Edward Nygma, he comes out with another insane line, which I love. He goes, "Ooh, nice form, but a little rough on the landing. He may have to settle for the bronze."
Yeah.
He's got cocky really fast, doesn't he? You'd assume this kind of experience would be what sort of turns him into a jerk later in the film. But no, he's just a cocky dick from minute one.
Yeah, but was it always there?
That's very true.
Because like Catwoman in the last one, her personality, it didn't change necessarily. It was something within her, I argued, throughout the show. that was buried deep within her, who she maybe wanted to be, this strong figure, and the experience brought it out. Whereas here, like, this experience is just nothing to him. He's already crazed. He already doesn't really think twice about what he's doing.
I think he might be still riding on the high from the box. Like, this is a fantasy of his he's finally living out, and now it's just like, I'm still just buzzing. You know, he's so excited about the whole thing.
That would be something I would have liked to see them explore. Like, the box lets you kind of live out your fantasy and that. So maybe he has the, you know, like, not. I don't want to go too far. Pretty much everyone hates the boss, right? So, his fantasy is, you know, in a jokey way, killing the boss. He doesn't mean it necessarily.
You keep saying that to like to Lauren here. Like, one of her previous bosses was Natasha Kamani, who we also had on the show, John.
Yeah, but you can't
say these things. That's
a different kind of work. You know, you work closely with someone. My boss is just someone in an office. You know. So people might have this fantasy. I hate my boss. Blah blah blah. And he gets to live it out with the box, but not actually do it. But it drives him over the edge into actually doing these things. That would be cool.
That Simpsons, like, you know, we have to go stake Mr. Burns, like, kill my boss. Do I dare live out the American dream?
Yeah, because the tipping point was, I guess it was Bruce Wayne was his tipping point.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to figure out, right, when he's already tapped, right? Like, this guy's tapped. But when did he then, was it only because he finally gets everything working, or was it just this exchange? But there wasn't any growth. It just went from I'm keeping my shit together so that I can potentially be recognized for my genius, and then that didn't happen, so everyone.
Yeah, he was barely keeping it together, because you know that whole, like, I just need some more additional funding for 2 months. Let me show you, please. Like, it's really like you are holding on by a thread to holding it together. Like, I
think that it's pretty accurate in some ways, because, you know, there was another shooting in America that just happened, and this was they had just released this report about how something like 80% or more of the shootings that have happened could have been prevented because there were so many signs from the person that they were, you know, they were tapped, they were cuckoo, they were gonna snap, or they had already snapped in some way. So in that way, it's, you know, it works, because you're like, this is what happens. Like, this guy's. Do you see this? Does everyone see this? Are we okay with this behavior?
That's why, like,
the new Joker movie kind of deals with that issue, doesn't it? Because in some ways he's a similar character. There's all these signs that this guy is a danger, at least to himself, maybe other people. Someone needs to kind of have a word with him, maybe give him some leave so he can go and recuperate. But nobody seems to care. They're clearly working him like a dog.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's doing that himself, though. I think he's the one that's like, I'm going to stay here and do this until it's right. And, like, I think maybe why, like, the reason Stickley comes up into the lab is because, like, some of the security people are like, that Edward Nygma guy is still here. I don't want to go up and talk to him because he's a bit of a weirdo. And then Stickley's like, I'll take care of this. I think he just storms up and, like, he's marched in there to take care of although, and we'll deal with this over the next couple of minutes. Is this building entirely empty? Is nobody watching the security cameras? Is there nobody else who might be like, wait a minute, was that a crashing window? Was that a scream going down past the 50-odd floors that are still from here to there?
And he marches up to the security camera here. You know, he does his typical Jim Carrey laugh and strides towards the camera, really angrily repeating Wayne's dialogue about the mind manipulation, raising too many questions. Yeah. And he walks up to the camera and asks, why hasn't anybody put you in your place? It's like, hang on, someone's watching this, right? Or they're gonna see it.
It would not. I wouldn't have been surprised because of the tone of some of the movies. Like, if they did a pan out and there was a security guard sitting watching, like, a ball game, and that just happening behind him or something.
I actually would buy that more than just not referencing anything, not dealing with it.
Yeah, I was, because at the time that was so common, right? We saw that all the time. The fat security guard sitting, eating crisps, and like just, you know, listening, watching the ball game, like you just said. And maybe Joel Schumacher's like, they're going to assume that anyway. So yeah, we're good.
I will say, I feel I have seen the inside of Jim Carrey's mouth more than I have my own. Like, when he does that, like, like he's making sure you see the tonsils and everything. I was like, I don't think I've looked into my own mouth that much.
I now can't get aroused unless I'm picturing his tonsils.
You can have them removed.
I know. I was like counting his fillings. I was thinking about that too with all his fillings. I was like, I wonder if he had any issues with his helmet, with his fillings overheating.
Oh yeah, they should deal with that. That's an issue that needs to be resolved.
There's not enough of overheated fillings for me.
I want to see them like melt and come pouring out of his teeth. Just,
which is at the end, yeah, when the box has warped his whole head, you see like a trickle of iron coming out the side of his mouth. Like, ugh.
That'd be amazing. That would genuinely be quite scary.
I was like, everyone else was like, what the hell is that coming out of his mouth? And then Lauren's in the cinema going, yes, finally they're gonna trust it. Like everyone else would be like, is this guy the Penguin now? He always had black crap coming out of his mouth.
In the comic books and everything, so how were the Riddler and Two-Face, did they always work together? Were they consistently?
I think this was
let's pick two characters.
I think it was like a ticking of boxes. I think it was like, so we had, right, first villain, the Joker, obviously, biggest villain. Who are the other big Batman villains? The Penguin, okay, Catwoman, yep. So who's the next big Batman villain? The Riddler, okay. Who after that? Two-Face, okay, yep, we'll do it. And then they're just going down the line of like how popular these characters were. And if they just kept going, it would have been like, who's after Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy? King Tut, Clayface. There you go. Those two guys, they're the movie now, you know.
Well, in the draft, when he says, you know, why hasn't anybody put you in your place? There's actually loads more dialogue. They cut a huge piece of dialogue out, and I really like it. I can see why it would. It's just sort of unnecessary, but it's great, and I've got it all written here, so I'm going to do my best with this. It says, yeah, Edward. 2 years, 3.5762% of my estimated lifespan toiling for your greater glory and profit. And then he smashes the GQ cover of Bruce onto the floor. He says, well, let me ask you some questions, Mr. Smarter Than Thou. Why are you so debonair, successful, richer than God? Why should you have it all and not me? Yes, you're right. There are too many questions, Bruce Wayne. And he stomps on the picture. Like, why hasn't anybody put you in your place? And it's time you came up with some answers, starting right now.
Ooh, that did keep going.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, though.
That was like Return of the King, though. It was just like, oh, that must be the end line. Oh, wait, no, there's more coming.
It might just be a bit too much like a soliloquy. I don't know. But,
I like the first half of it. I think they could have, at the foot stomping, I probably would have cut there.
Yeah.
That would have been good enough.
That does seem like a natural cut, too. Like the foot comes down.
Yeah, don't keep talking after you stomp.
Well, I will say, though, in the shooting of, you know, the questions, Mr. Wayne, I think this is really, really good camera work. And I like, you know, poo-poo all the, you know, Jim Carrey in terms of like, oh, his comedy's not that great and he's an over-actor and all this kind of stuff. But this guy, like, considers this on a huge sound stage. This guy is commanding the room just by stomping down the questions, Mr. Wayne, and the camera just coming along with him.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's really exuding confidence as a performer. It's like, yeah, this guy is just like, you can't take your eyes off him. He's a really dynamic presence.
Yeah, I've gone through a roller coaster of feelings on Jim Carrey throughout my life. As a kid, loved him, obviously. I was the right age for Ace Ventura and things. And then as I got older, I was like, no, it's just silly, rubber-faced nonsense. I don't like that. And now I've flipped back. It's like, it's not my favorite type of comedy, but even when he's doing something I don't like, he's doing it well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's so charismatic.
I get exhausted watching him as well. I just think, my God, like I don't know. I haven't heard any stories about it, but I do wonder how many takes. Or like I can imagine as a director, even if you're a director who does a lot of takes, it would be overwhelming to watch that over and over again. I think you'd be like, yeah, okay, we're good.
And I reckon from what I know, I think he just does all of his like own ad-libbing and stuff as well. So I don't think he's not going to stick to the script. He's just going to do a bunch of stuff on top of it.
I've always heard great things from people who work on the films with him, though. I was listening to an episode of Switchblade Sisters, which is a really terrific podcast about it's April Wolf interviewing women who work within the film industry. So you get like female directors and writers and stuff come on, and they talk about their favorite genre movie. And one of them was on talking about The Mask, and she was just saying like apparently because Jim Carrey is such a dynamic physical performer, like the animators loved him because like little things like when he would take out the huge Tommy guns and then he would do a kind of weird hand jiggle. And they're like, yeah, because he knows, because he's a physical comedian, what this gun should feel like and how his hand would move. Whereas like the animators were expecting, like, we're going to have to put in a whole big thing to make sure this looks right. And then all they had to do was just draw it over the top because he had done all the work for them and stuff.
Well, he's basically a living cartoon.
Yeah. And the thing is nowadays he's cooled down a bit and he's kind of like, he takes things a little more, well, he's got freaking Sonic the Hedgehog coming out, to be fair.
Yeah. Right. I just finally watched that new Sonic trailer last night. Is it embarrassing for me to say it looked amazing? I was really like, oh my God, I need to watch this.
I don't know if I wouldn't have said amazing. I was just like, it looks better. But
I thought it looked great. I can't wait to see Jim in that.
But he's not Sonic. He's
No.
He's
Who's
Dr.
he
Robotnik.
Oh.
Yeah, the villain. He's hunting Sonic down. And he has a hilariously big mustache.
He got a laugh out of me in that trailer though, because there's a bit where one of his minions comes up to him and says like, "Oh sir, I've got you like a Alaskan camel milk soy green latte. Do you want it?" And he grabs it and goes like, Of course I want it. I love the way you make them." And that got a genuine laugh out of me because of such an unexpected delivery of the line.
It's amazing.
I mean, you've done comedic parts yourself, Lauren. Have you ever been tempted to throw yourself into full on Jim Carrey like wackiness, or you're like, no, I would need about like 5 lines of coke before that?
Well, I think that there's a place for it, sure. Like I really like doing over the top physical things whenever I can, because I just still love physical comedy and I think it's amazing. And I do a lot more. I think my face doesn't move in the same way, but I do like to do things like that with my voice. So I'll tend to try and do voice acty things that'll make people laugh. So it's kind of like you can't ever lose when you do it the right way. And it was so funny. It was like every night, some of my I've done it in lots of shows. If you start something really high and then drop your voice really low, it works every time. And and then there was another part where I'd try and cry, is like in a comedy. And some of the people that I worked with, they were always like, I don't think that they were properly annoyed by it, but we made jokes about it. That I said, regardless of who our audience is, this will make them laugh every time because it's just one of those gags that work. So yeah, it's really fun. I think it's so, for someone like him it's obvious that he really wanted to make people laugh. I think that was in that documentary because I watched that as well, right? And he was talking about being a child and loving to make people laugh. So when you find your little tricks and they work, it's so tempting to keep using them because to try something new and you might not get the laugh. That's got to be really hard.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. It would my anxiety would just stop me sleeping for 6 weeks after.
It does though. Theater's really difficult for me to do because some people do it so well where they go and they live their life and then they go do the show at night and that's that. But for me, it just took over my whole day until I was there and did the performance. And then if you have a good show, then you think, oh God, I hope it's as good tomorrow. If you have a bad show, all you can think about is, oh, I want to get back out there and do it again.
Yeah. Oh my God. You have the same anxiety problems as me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Terrible. I mean, God. And I do all kinds of things just all day long. It was me doing exercises to try and not be anxious. It's not a good way to live, to be honest.
Yeah. I was having it vicariously the other day because I'm rewatching the first 2 seasons of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because the 3rd season's out in December. And there's it was all about her starting a stand-up career, and there's the inevitable episode where she bombs, and you're just watching it. It's like, this is very difficult because you're so engrossed in the character when she's just up there doing her stuff and nobody's laughing. It's just like, what is going wrong? Like, why aren't people reacting to this? Can't they just change the script so everyone's laughing at this now? And it really is unbearable. It's just like, oh, I don't know if I could do it. Like, I don't know if I would have the chutzpah to pull that off.
Well, and it's so much about the room as well. Like, you know, and that's the truth of it. A lot of it, if you have, you know, if it goes really well one night and then terribly the other night, you know, and you do the same thing, a lot of it is like the people giving each other permission to laugh or being judged by, oh, do other people think this is funny? I've been to comedy shows where I thought the act was terrible and the whole room is just, you know, pissing themselves and rolling on the floor.
Oh, I hate that because you feel like you need to laugh along just out of courtesy.
Yeah, being an audience member is stressful. It's stress going to shows for sure.
It's a performance as well.
To do well. Yeah, it is a performance. You're right. Because you're giving them, they're feeding off of you, and there is expectation.
Yeah, and even if I find something absolutely hilarious, I'm quite a subdued person. But you're at a show, so you're like, okay, right, I need to exaggerate my natural reaction. So I let them know how good they're doing, which will fuel them to keep it up.
Well, and we say that to each other. We'd say, you know, oh, we're not getting the audible laughs, but look at their faces. They're warm, they're smiling, their mouths are open. And then afterwards, we'd get big applause and they'd come and say amazing things. And we think, why the didn't you laugh then?
Oh, it's stressful.
I feel bad, though, because, like, starting days Jim Carrey, as an adult, had I been there, I would have been stony-faced, like, watching him flail around. I would have been like, what is this? This is something. If I had been an adult in the early 90s, when Ace Ventura came out, I know I would have hated it. Yeah, like I would, and like, you know, I don't. Ace Ventura now has aged kind of badly for several reasons, as we've talked about in the show.
The trans jokes, yeah.
Well, there's that, yeah, and then there's but the thing is that, like, Dumb and Dumber is kind of like the same level, but then I really love Dumb and Dumber. And now I'm like, if I had seen that when I was, like, 25 instead of when I was 8, would I really hate it? Or, like, what?
I guarantee you would. I know you well. If you saw that now, you would be like, what on earth was that? You'd be fuming to me online.
Yeah. If they brought it out now and it was like Jonah Hill and, you know, Zac Efron in Dumb and Dumber, I probably would be like, nah, why would anyone ever watch that? That looks like garbage. But yeah, but back in the day, I guess I was okay for it. But of course, though, like, would be remiss, Lauren, if we didn't mention, because you always seem to have kind of weird tie-ins to work you've done, very tenuously. Because I remember in the first season, movie about crazy killer clown guy, you were in a movie about a crazy killer clown that's now out and available, I believe. The second movie, we had, you know, a villain who lived in Arctic worlds, and you were in a movie called Arctic. And I was like, oh, it ties in. It totally works. And of course, one of Jim Carrey's first big films was a movie called Once Bitten, and you were in a short called Once Bitten. Yeah, so I'm just hoping, like, within the next year, you have to have something with, like, a freeze ray in it, or overgrowing flowers, or something, just to keep this going for, like, the
One of my favorite Jim Carrey movies, Once Bitten. Love it.
Really? Oh.
It's such a time warp. It's like all of the things in that movie, from when they're shopping in the mall to, like, this little dating phone scene. And, like, yeah, it's horribly sexist in so many ways, but it's a delightful little film.
We did also have, like, a weird tie-in with you, I think I discovered earlier, with because of course you remember the guard in the bank at the beginning, Joe Grafassi, who's like, oh no, boiling acid.
That's right. Yeah, Joe has. I was telling my friends that last night when we were watching. I was like, oh, he directed me. Yeah, he directed me in Lewis Black's play, One Slight Hitch. We did that a couple times. Once in Jersey City, and then, or no, was it Jersey? No, New Jersey. And then the other time was in Cape Cod. And then I put Joe in the web series that we did, The Mentors. So he's in one of those episodes online.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. And I was telling them a story about Joe. So he teaches as well, and he's a judge on Law and Order SVU. So when we were in Cape Cod, we were on actor housing, and Joe was in the actor housing with us during rehearsals. And I don't know. I left. Everyone was like having a drink after rehearsals. And I think maybe I went to take a shower or change or something, but I left my phone downstairs in the kitchen. And then I came back down and Joe was in bed and everyone's like, right, we're going to go like sit on the porch and smoke weed or something. So we went out and they said, did you see the picture? I said, what picture? They're like, oh, she didn't see it yet. I said, what are you talking about? They're like, on your phone. I said, what? So I'm looking through my messages and I said, I don't have a picture. They're like, no, it's in your camera, in your gallery. What? So I look in and it's Joe Grafazzi, naked as the day he was born, with a guitar over his penis, like playing the guitar. And I'm like, when the did you guys take this? They're like, when you went upstairs. And I think I was up there maybe 5 minutes and then came back down and he was in bed. And
that's a guy who was prepared to do that. He's just like, this is my party trick. When everyone ever leaves a room.
It's like, right, I'm getting naked. Take a picture of me on her phone.
It takes a lot of guts, or balls, one could say, to just decide, like, right, I have no idea how long she's going to be. Let's go. You must have that in the back of your mind already. Because it would take me 5 minutes to decide, right, I'm going to do this. This will be funny.
And when we did the audition, he gave me such hell. And I was like, ugh, who is this guy? And then he hired me. And everything was great after that. It was so funny. Like I don't know, he's a really funny guy. We both like old movies. So we sat on the train going out to Jersey on the first time and we just talk about movies and he'd get out he was reading acting books and directing books and things all the time. He's a really good guy.
I was imagining now though, you auditioning for him and you just like delivering lines like, oh no, it's boiling acid. Like, no, damn it, it's, oh no, it's boiling. Give me more. It's like, I don't think anyone's supposed to go this high, Joe. Like, no, damn it, I told you to do it more. No.
Oh yeah, when we did the mentors, because Natasha directed those, he was doing his thing and he'd just keep doing different takes and starting over again. It was like, Natasha said, right, let's just keep the camera rolling. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's been did you remember that he was in this, or were you just last night going like that guard in that bank vault?
Yeah, I was like, it's Joe.
That must have been a nice surprise.
Yeah, I actually wish he was in the movie, the actor, more because the character, they haven't given him the best character. He's meant to be kind of irritating, so he does it well. But it's like, this guy's talented. I want to see him doing something else.
That's the thing, because we went through like a lot with that character left a big impact on people because everyone who was on those episodes was like, that guard he's going for it in terms of this performance. Like he's like, Jim Carrey's in this. Hey, if he can go big, I can go big too. Okay,
maybe that was his idea. I'm gonna one up Jim Carrey.
He is a good comedy actor. He's in so many things. He's got lots of cameos. Joe does. And if you look up his IMDb, I mean, he's in all the movies of the 90s. He's in them. Oh, Brewster's Millions. He has a good part in that.
Oh, yeah.
With Pat Hingle, I believe, as well. Pat Hingle and
Everything's
Brewster's Millions. We'll say one thing we were remiss if we didn't point out. As Nigma's marching down, what I originally thought were like Christmas trees or something, apparently they're DNA helixes. So it's a little cameo by Mr. DNA.
Oh, you thought it was set at Christmas like the last film?
Well, I was kind of thinking like, because, was there at any point did they have the note? Because technically Batman 89 is supposed to be set over Halloween because it has the Halloween reference in the deleted scenes and stuff.
So each one needs a new holiday.
Yeah, so this should be like Easter or, I don't know, Labor Day or something like that.
It does look like Christmas trees, though. I agree with you totally. I never would have thought it was anything else.
But, and then, of course, then we got the, why hasn't anybody put you in your place? And a little bit of a chilling theremin. Well, to say, though, like, when you freeze on that image of Jim Carrey looking in that camera, he is genuinely pretty intimidating.
Oh,
like, I've got him frozen now. I'm kind of freaked out looking at him.
Well, this is what I mean. This is why the cable guy's so perfect for him. He's creepy. He's scary. Yeah. This guy's weird. And then, not to be nasty, you find out about his private life. He's a pretty strange guy in real life.
Yeah. He's been through some stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going on quite a bit. So shall we?
Yeah.
So
we cut then to a shot of a television screen talking about Harvey Dent's past.
Yeah.
And we hear how Dent was burned by Boss Maroney.
Yeah.
And we are just about to see the deed happen as the minute ends. But what I wanted to ask quickly was, well, there were two questions. I'm sure you know what one of them is now. But first off, why is this courtroom sort of thing being filmed like a film? It looks like he's watching a movie.
Oh, obviously Batman was allowing a documentary to be filmed about his life. He's like, well, I got this court hearing earlier today. I got someone left my jury duty notice on the bat signal, so I guess I better go to that.
No, I know in America, I think there is different laws about this, and they do film more courtrooms things than you get over here. But even so, it's the way it's shot, isn't it? It is a movie, so the only thing that makes sense is what you said now.
It should really be like the courtroom art of like the guy throwing the basset. Well, the guy still drawing Harvey Dent down on the floor.
That's
Batman
another
flying
question I'm going to have coming up, right? I don't care. I'm going to repeat myself later in the week and stuff. Why are they showing this happen on the TV, on the television? This is a horrific crime.
It's like, hey, Gotham saw the Joker poisoning them live in person. They saw Oswald Cobblepot run for mayor, like with black goo gushing out of his mouth.
Always such a huge presence in the Batman world.
Yeah.
So
people are just hardened to it. Maybe they're like, oh, I seen all that. Forgot that Penguin guy scared the crap out of my baby, but like he was almost mayor, so we can take anything been on the TV, I guess.
Oh, it's crazy.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it does kind of come out though of nowhere, and then it doesn't continue. You have because you've got all the crazy Batman angles throughout the whole movie that really do start driving me crazy. But yeah, and then you've got this odd video film.
It is peculiar, and as Maroney goes to attack Dent, Batman he jumps up to leap into action. And my other question, it's something you have posed already, Niall, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why is he there? Why is he in costume?
But, how did they? Yeah, I mean, you can't walk into a courtroom with your eyes covered and like you've got a little bat head. It just the context doesn't work.
It's like you've tried it, Lauren. It's like I went there one time with my cape, and they made sure the guy was neatly
They
folded.
said the cape was okay, but they're like, you got to take off your little bat head.
Hey, if I get called up for jury duty, I'm going to go dressed like this. It's going to be like 30 Rock when she goes dressed as Princess Leia to get out of it.
Did it work?
Does it work in that actually? Now it usually works, but don't they just roll with it this time?
I think that's the joke of that one.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, you think it's going to work, and then it just flips the other way.
They just let her turn up as Princess Leia.
But there is one thing actually though in the original Bachelor draft here, and I thought because I know you're obviously been an actress in several horror films, Lauren. I thought I'll mention it while she's here because you might appreciate it as a thing that I like so many things we've been going throughout the movies. Like this is a thing they took out that they should have left in the movie. Because there's supposed to be a little dream sequence here when, because it's Bruce Wayne watching the TV, but before he gets up, the original Bachelor draft has this, where it says, after put you in your place, it cuts to black, and then a coin flips towards us. It's Harvey Two-Face's coin. As it whirls, we see Harvey Dent when he was district attorney, handsome, vital. He questions a crime boss in the stand. Batman watches from the courtroom. Suddenly, one of the crime boss's slugs races towards and throws a vial of acid towards Harvey. Batman shoots across the courthouse and deflects it from hitting Harvey. So this whole scene just plays out like that. But as all this is happening, it keeps cutting back to the coin whirling and whirling in the air. And then it turns into a fall into the Batcave as young Bruce Wayne has been chased by the Monarch Bat, the big giant bat that was also cut out of the movie. Yeah. We hear Two-Face say, "We're the same, you and me. Two men in one." Harvey's words echo over and over. We see Chase's face, Lady Gotham. Then we see one half of Bruce's face as he wakes in the moonlight. But then he turns in bed to discover that he is split down the middle, like Two-Face. Half of him is Bruce Wayne, and half of him is Batman. Worse still, he is suddenly pulled in both directions. So they would have had a weird scene where Bruce Wayne is in a dream where he is half Batman, half Bruce Wayne, and then his body been torn apart, which to me seems like that would have been amazing to see.
Yeah, I'm on board for that.
Yeah, it seems like that's a real missed trick of like, that would have been a scene I would have fought for to stay in the movie. I guess it would have been the first thing to go when they're like, we're trying to make this for kids. Like McDonald's is breathing down our friggin' necks here. But can you imagine like that'd be a thing people would cosplay as today? Like, oh yeah, the half Val Kilmer, half Batman thing. And then what kind of, I'm assuming they wouldn't have gone too far, but imagine you would have seen like the skin starting to stretch and stuff. And
yeah, because I mean, you can do it in a way that isn't gory, and you can still have the metaphor.
Yeah.
So they could have made it happen. I mean, it does. It sounds like a proper dream, though, doesn't it? Like when you're explaining it, I'm like, what the is happening? But it's very, yeah, that's a dream.
Yeah. I guess this is like 2 or 3 years after Twin Peaks. They're like, yes, people are into this now. And then Joel Schumacher's coming in like, not anymore. They're not.
Nope, we're just doing angles and fun kicks to the chest.
So no, you have died on film several times, like much like Ed Begley Jr. Have you ever had to take a giant fall in a film, or have you got a murder list of like, well, I've been disemboweled, I've been shot, I've been, whatever. You're like, no one's dropped me into a waterfall yet.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, in Darlin, we did like a dream sequence in Pollyanna's Darlin where I was underwater and we had to film that. Underwater stuff is always really hard because it's like you're dealing with a wireless camera and it always, I mean, every time it just messes up and something happens, and yet, you have to stay in the water or near the water, and then you're dealing with like trying to stay warm enough, and oh god, yeah, water stuff sucks. His is all CGI, so that wouldn't have been bad to just kind of like fall off your chair, I guess, fall out of frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to do things like that where you have to like get out of frame and make it look natural, and really what you're doing is so unnatural and stupid, but it works. Like in Arctic, I had to actually beat the camera, so because it was from Arctic or from Chase's POV of me like scratching his face. So they just put the camera there, and then he's like, claw at the camera. But because of the depth of it, like it was really awkward, and I felt like such an idiot. And just like, yeah, faster, and it looks great, but you just feel like.
For a split second there, I thought when you said Chase, I was like, Dr. Chase Meridian was in
I
Arctic?
thought that as well.
I don't remember that.
No, Chase Williamson. So yeah, but I just had to attack the camera, and I just thought, I feel like a f***ing idiot right now. But then I saw the film, and it looks really good. You just have to, like, sometimes you can ask and say, can you please show this to me so that I know what it's supposed to look like? So then some directors will get and do it for you, but there are some, I've had directors where I'm like, will you do it then? Like, show me what you want. And they're like, no, just do it until I tell you it's right. But it's really helpful when they show you, because then you get it and you know what's supposed to come across.
Yeah, one of the most important things to know, surely.
Yeah, and then I think what Larry Fessenden had to whip me in Jugface, and that was hard because obviously I'm not having any contact with anything. So we had to really kind of choreograph like a sound that wasn't going to be like, you don't want to hear like a whip, because I think Chad Crawford Kinkle, who directed it, he's kind of a silly guy. And I think we were trying to find, all right, how can we do this? Like a sound cue that where we can also stay in the moment. So those kinds of conversations are always a little bit awkward.
Standard questions I've been asking to everyone this season, Lauren. I'll just quickly throw by if you don't mind. One is that, and I'm keeping a running tally in this because I want to see at the end where if this would have come out in a pro-con list. But apparently in the original draft of the Batman Forever, they changed the name Edward Nygma, which admittedly is a very silly name, to Lyle Heckendorf. Would you prefer Edward Nygma or Lyle Heckendorf? Do you think they should have lent more towards that? Or are you like comics purist? So like, no, Edward Nygma, of course.
What, Heckendorf?
Heckendorf, yeah.
Oh, God. Is there another option?
No, option C, please. Just the Riddler, I guess.
I mean, if Heckendorf is the second option, then no, just keep Enigma.
Okay. And also one of the revelations that I've come across this season is that, much like in first season, where I was astounded to find out that people don't find Jack Nicholson sexy, where I thought he was supposed to be like sex on legs. In season 2, where Chris Walken apparently was revealed to be quite attractive to many people. I've learned this season that apparently back in the 90s, Chris O'Donnell was like everybody's favorite hunk.
Yeah.
And this is astounding to me. Were you a Chris O'Donnell girl, or...
It was not, but I'll tell you this. Last night when he popped up on the screen, I was like, oh, he was good looking, wasn't he?
He is the quintessential 90s guy.
He was not my type at that time. I was really into Seth Green and Skeet Ulrich.
They're better options, I think. No, not to insult O'Donnell.
But now seeing O'Donnell, I'm like, what a nice looking young man.
That's like Seth Green. Because my first big crush in life was Alison Hannigan in Buffy.
Same.
And then seeing her and Oz together, I was like, damn, this is a good looking couple. Like, this is just, that guy with her is just like...
When she left him, I was so mad at her, and I stopped watching. I was like, this is bullshit. It wouldn't happen. That would never happen.
They gave it a second go, but it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But do you have any parting thoughts, though, about Batman Forever? I think, actually, I remember one of the first times we reached out to you for, like, in season 1. I remember you mentioning something about Batman Forever and eating. Specifically, you mentioned you just remembered eating, like, bonbons and popcorn or something and watching it in the cinema.
The nachos, probably nachos and cheese. Yeah. No, I'm glad that I watched it again, to be honest, because I remember I was really excited and enjoying myself, but then my father's disapproval made me feel like I shouldn't approve of it. So I was happy to do a rewatch because I honestly enjoyed it. No, I'm happy that I got to revisit it and have a lot more appreciation for the other characters, because I definitely only went into it wanting to see Jim Carrey. And I was a really big Val Kilmer fan as well. Like Salton Sea is one of my favorite films, and I've got a couple that I really like. But watching this, no, not a fan of his Bruce for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Val.
Hey, sorry, Val. Love you.
But yes, the only other note I had was when Stickley falls down the waterfall there. All I could think about was the special edition of The Empire Strikes Back. When Luke jumps and they add that scream.
Oh, right. For some reason, because it happened this week, I assumed you were going to say when he throws him out the window, he just goes, McClunky.
McClunky, yes. The greatest addition to Star Wars ever. Thank you, George Lucas. McClunky.
That's Fred Stickley going down, going, what? I said McClunky.
So with that, we will depart. Lauren, would you like to tell our listeners where they can find you online and whatnot?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Bloody LAC, and I'm on Instagram just as Lauren Ashley Carter. And I'm currently spending most of my time volunteering for a charity called Speak Easy, which is a specialist charity for people with aphasia. And aphasia is a communication disorder that happens after a stroke or brain injury. You might know people who've had a stroke or brain injury and they have difficulty speaking or understanding reading. So yeah, it's an amazing, amazing group. It's called Speak Easy in Ramsbottom, and you can find them online.
Oh, that's awesome. But also, because I remember when you were first on back in season 1, people were asking, where's this clown movie then? And so Gags is out now, I believe. It's available.
It has a distributor. They renamed it Gags the Clown. So that's like the full title of it. I'm looking, because I haven't seen that it's out. I don't think you can rent it yet, but it does have distribution, and they're really great. I know that they're working on a lot of physical stuff for it, like physical, Blu-ray, things like this. So once it's out to rent, I will have it plastered all over my Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, it's a really fun movie.
And of course, you got Arctic, and the 2019 film Darling, and the 2015 film Darling, which you are in both of.
Well, I'm in Darling more. Darling, I think I'm in like a glimpse of it.
Oh. And of course, Imitation Girl, which you were.
Darling is more the story of it's very much the story of the little girl, my sister in Darling, the little redheaded girl, Darling, grown up and things that transpire once she's left, living in the woods with the woman and myself.
Oh yeah, I should say it's a sequel to The Woman, that was a movie you were in many years ago. Let's say many years ago. It's only a couple of years ago. But
Yeah, I was thinking what.
In my youth.
You made it sound like it was like 40-year-old.
This is the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to the Woman's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
But yes, and come and check us out everywhere. You all probably know where we are by now. We're on Facebook at the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave, Twitter at Bat-Minute. We got a Patreon, a TeePublic, there's a website, thebatminute.com. Just go look it all up. We're all over Google now. Because I'm deliberately trying to slip the Bat-Minute brand onto every website I possibly can, so we'll come up no matter what. And it's working. It's working.
Oh. John is basically doing Hail Hydra, just with Bat-Minute to everyone. Just going out, meeting people at clubs, taking them back to his, and then just like the moment of climax, he just whispers in their ear, Bat-Minute.
How did you know?
Because John didn't want to tell you it had happened last night to me. I was like, who is this charming young man? He seems familiar to me.
I thought I'd wiped your memory. God damn it, I'll have to work on that later. But we will depart, and I am going to do my customary tossing of the coin to see if Lauren is allowed to survive, or we are going to throw her off a waterfall. Right. Do you want heads or tails for survival?
Heads.
Heads for survival. Let's do it. Let's do it. Tails! Take her away, Niall.
Surf's up, Big Kahuna.
You are fired.
Next time, no courtroom for old men. It's the thriller under Manila, as a crusading counselor's craggy kisser is caustically compromised in a courtroom cataclysm that causes his mind to schism. But while the DA's demeanor turns bolder, despite a daring deflect by a folder, in this frightful flashback, which present-day scientist is reciting an excessive suicidal grieving act? Find out Wednesday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.